hopefully you've all enjoyed a nice short video there, courtesy of Sky AdSmart whilst you waited in the waiting room. I'm going to start off today's session and then I'm going to pass over to my two lovely guests who have kindly offered to share their expertise in what we're talking about today. So obviously talking about how we can use retail data to inform and empower TV advertising to make TV quite accessible for a lot of brands and have that real power that a lot of that shopper data brings. So I'm sure my guests will walk you through that perfectly. But as a short introduction, so we are GottaBe Marketing. We're an award-winning brand experience and sampling agency, and we craft exceptional consumer experiences. We work with both media as well as on-the-ground events and experiences. My two guests today, Lewis and Fiona. Lewis, since you're first on my screen, I'll let you go first as well. Just shortly introduce yourself and then we'll dive into the session as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Lewis. I've worked for Sky for sort of 9 years, and within this sort of capacity within the Sky Media, which is where AdSmart sits, for the last sort of 2 and a bit. So yeah, really pleased to be here and obviously talk about all things AdSmart today.
And also joined by Fiona, who's joined us from Dunnhumby.
Yeah, hi, I'm Fiona. I'm actually quite new to the business, but I also did work at Sky for around 4 years. So yeah, I'm a media activation executive at Tesco Media. So I work with our brands, agencies, and partners in maximising and advising everything around our Tesco Club Card audiences, all the way through to activating them.
Perfectly placed, really, to understand the mix of Sky and Tesco's media, really.
Yeah.
So just to start us off and kind of introduce what we'll be covering today. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with Lewis and talk about really how Sky AdSmart actually works, and equally then blending that with Fiona's knowledge of retail data and how the two can work really nicely to target consumers in a really clever and effective way as well. And I think the guys have got a couple of examples as well that they can give throughout, both looking at audiences and things like that. And then, as ever with our webinar series, we're going to open any questions, any challenges that people want to share. As you'll have probably already seen, you'll have had a questionnaire pop up on your screen. Also, feel free to chuck any questions in the chat as we go through. The guys are more than happy to take questions on anything specific as well. So without further ado, I am going to pass over to Lewis, who is going to share his screen and hopefully everything works. Because Lewis has also got a couple of slides just to go through and show you exactly how Sky AdSmart works. Got your Zoom screen.
Yeah, hopefully can you see that?
Yeah, you're all good.
Perfect, great. Okay, lovely. So yeah, so as sort of mentioned, you know, I've been
in presenter mode.
Sorry?
Got it in presenter mode.
Oh, is it?
Back out. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Fine, I'll go through it. That's fine. Yes, so as sort of mentioned, been at Sky for 9 years, in Sky Media for the last couple of years, and AdSmart is almost kind of the best kept secret, really, because you know I work for Sky and I hadn't known about AdSmart, so therefore why would you have probably heard of AdSmart? So there'll be lots of people, I'm sure, on the call that this will be the first time they've heard about it. So obviously I'll be running through that with you today. I'll talk about sort of a little bit about how it works in terms of the technology behind it, but also more importantly, why it's such a great solution for FMCG brands in particular. So we'll go through that now. So I like to start with some sort of brand slides. So we call them sort of brand safe slides. So this is because There'll be brands that you'll be familiar with, some you won't be, obviously all shapes and sizes. And I think it's just good to be able to see that, you know, these brands have trusted us, and they've used us. And obviously if they can, then hopefully you'll feel safe, that your brand can also be in that environment as well. So there's some food brands I put on, and then also there is some soft drinks as well. And I believe most of those that are attending today are kind of within those kind of two sectors. So a little bit about sort of TV and where it sits amongst the kind of different marketing avenues. So it sits at the top when it comes to the most trusted media, and I think this is really important because when you're looking to build relationships with new customers, you know, that level of trust is obviously vital when it comes to building that relationship. And you can see kind of where everything else sits within that across the different platforms such as social media. You've got online, direct mail, etc. So I think it's a really important slide to kind of highlight where TV sits. And I think this is kind of a bit of a myth that I get told semi-regularly, that people don't watch TV anymore. So, you know, why would you consider AdSmart? When actually, when we look at all of the stats and the data behind that, you can see that actually, when it comes to video, that the most watched sort of video is TV, and you can see over 83% of video content is consumed on TV. And of course, we've got the other platforms you'll be familiar with, like TikTok, YouTube, etc., that are in there as well. But when it comes to advertising and getting your message to that audience, TV is still very much the way to go. So when it comes to AdSmart itself, then, so sort of what is AdSmart? So AdSmart is very much advertising on TV, but done very differently. So when you think of advertising on TV, or linear TV that we call it, you would pick a program, a time that you want your advert to go out, and you kind of associate that program with your target audience. And you're kind of hoping, guessing that your audience will watch it, see your advert, and then obviously go in and either be familiar with your brand, or maybe it might be go and purchase your product, whatever that call to action is. The way that AdSmart works is that we actually do it kind of backwards. So we go, well, who is it you're trying to reach? And we'll build your audience, and then we will play your advert to them no matter what they're watching, as long as it's across the Sky platforms. So, you know, we kind of do it backwards, where we say, well, let's not reach the people that it's not relevant to, and let's only reach those that it is. So we'll talk a little bit about how we actually do that. And, you know, when it comes to reaching that audience, we not only reach them across live TV, we reach them across on demand and also digital. And the reason being that live TV is great when you're sitting down to watch a program at a particular time of the day, or you're recording something to watch later. But you know, viewing habits have changed quite dramatically over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years. And we see that on demand is something that people use regularly, you know, the likes of Netflix, Amazon, Disney, etc., being sort of popular. But of course, Sky also has that capability. So for those of you that are Sky customers, if you go onto your set-top box and you go and sort of pick a series you want to watch, or a box set, you will then watch that, and that will typically be on demand. So we can reach your audience when they haven't got time to watch live TV, but they want to sit down and watch a box set in the evening. And similarly for digital as well, we can also reach that audience when they're looking at Sky News or Sky Sports, or any articles and highlights from entertainment shows. We will also be able to reach them at that point as well. And also, what's great about digital is that it's actually non-subscribers also will use digital, so we can reach a wider audience. So we put all of those platforms into campaigns to make the campaign have the widest reach possible, but also obviously it's hyper targeted as well. So simply put, AdSmart, we reach the right people the right number of times with the right message, and that's kind of, you know, what we do in a nutshell, really. And I think by doing that, what you see is these great results from the back of it, not just for each brand in terms of you know, we talk about sales and we talk about brand awareness, etc., but also in these stats, as you can see. So, you know, if you see an advert at home when you're watching TV and it's relevant to you, you're, as you can see, 48% less likely to switch channels, because obviously it's something you can resonate with. Again, 10% increase in enjoyment because it's relevant, 35% increase in engagement, and of course there's a higher emotional response rate. So all of these stats are great when it comes to saying, well, we can put your brand in front of the right people, and then therefore we'll get this higher level of engagement from off the back of it. So in terms of how AdSmart works, so it's kind of, there's 4 pillars. So scale, so this is the subscriber base, and you can see content. You know, as you'll be familiar with, Sky content is world-class content. So that's something that we continue to push and invest in. And then you've got data and technology. So we'll talk a little bit about data and technology, but technology sort of first. So in this example, and I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but you could be watching Sky TV at home, and then your neighbor, and in this scenario, John at 24 is somebody who's quite active and into his fitness. Sarah at number 36 has got 2 young children. They're watching the same program at the same time. Even though that is the case, what we can do with AdSmart is we overlay a relevant advert to them over a national advert. So in this case, John receives a My Protein advert, and Sarah receives the Water Babies advert for her children about some swimming lessons. So this is kind of the magic of AdSmart, really, and how it works. And something we put in place is a measurement. So this measurement is 75% of the advert. So typically 23 seconds of a 30-second ad. And we put this in place because, you know, we want to make sure as much as possible that not only are you reaching the right audience, but that audience are also actually watching the advert. So for example, if somebody fast forwards through your adverts, or if they change the adverts before that 75% has been played, then we don't charge that as an impression, which when you compare it to the likes of social media and other platforms, that's a very high threshold, when sometimes it can be, you know, pixels generating on a screen, or literally a couple of seconds, that an impression is typically charged. So we try and make that threshold a very high bar when measuring. So in terms of the data then, so the pillar that I spoke about, so we have there's four parts here. So we've got the first party data, which is the Sky subscriber data. So this is our customers, so we know where they live, etc. Then we overlay that with third party data, and this is where our partnerships come into play. And what's going to be relevant for everyone here on the call will be obviously sitting within that FMCG sort of data, and of course we'll talk. Well, Fiona will talk about that later on, specifically within Tesco's, but we also have other options within Sky, likes of Experian, MasterCard, and also there's an option called Sakana, which is a new data set we've recently added. So we'll overlay that third-party data with the data we've already got, which gives us a really fantastic view of each household. In fact, over 1,500 data points per household we have. So that's how we can then build an audience for you. And one thing that's really important to highlight is that Sky, as I've mentioned, is household address verified. So we don't go via email address or login. It's household, so it's unique. There's nothing else like it, and therefore it's something that's really strong when it comes to targeting very specifically households. And then also the next part is kind of emphasizing the fact that, you know, we reach households, which mean that you're not just reaching one person, but you're typically reaching sort of technically 2.3 people. And also what's really significant about that is that when you're watching TV with someone, which the stats are about, I think it's 45% of the time you'll be watching it with somebody else, is that when there's certain decisions to be made, you naturally have that conversation when an advert comes up that prompts that discussion. So all of these factors are really fantastic when it comes to engaging with customers and obviously building that trust and that relationship from that point of view. So in terms of the data, Experian, as I mentioned, I put a list of all different types of Experian targeting specifically within the FMCG sector that will be relevant to some of your brands that are here today. So you can see we can target based on people that have got loyalty cards with different supermarkets. We can target people that shop at certain supermarkets, groceries, purchases, wine, drink, etc. So there's a long list of targeting that we can activate. Also, we can use shopper segments, so the types of customers that you typically go after or that fit your audience, we can go after that as well. and geo-targeting, which I think is really important because, you know, it's great to be able to target an audience, but we can also target geographically an area that's relevant to that audience. It might be, as you can see on the left-hand side, you want to target specific shops or places that you're selling your products, and we can do that, or we can target maybe particular areas that either you're strong in, or maybe some that you think there's potential room for development and growth for your brand. And the sort of post-campaign analysis, when it comes to FMCG, it's difficult for us to do the as in depth as we would typically do, because the sales data isn't sitting within your own, you know, account online or shop. So because of that, there's a kind of a hole when it comes to that sales data. So we can't run sales attribution, and we can't do web attribution because the website will typically be a supermarket, etc. So what we can do is a brand evaluation, but I wanted to at least mention that as an option. But obviously the detailed stuff, if you like, sits within, as Fiona will talk about, Sky Media, and also Nectar within Sainsbury's as well. So just quickly, obviously conscious of time as well, but just quickly, with this new data partner of FMCG, data partner called Sakana, this is very new. So new it was only kind of brought to us and told to us last week. So haven't had the opportunity to use this for any brands yet, personally. Of course, we have in the testing phase. But this is just a slightly different take on the data. That in terms of, it's another option for you to look at, but effectively it's 80% of all FMCG transactions across multiple different categories, which will be supermarkets and various shops, and that's all from the sort of the EPOS systems. And then similarly, what you do in this scenario is you would work directly with Sakana. They look at it from a postcode sector level, and then you would effectively, Sky Media would then come in at that point, and we would build your audience based on the data that they've given us. There's more info about this, and happy to send some after this if you'd like to know more, or obviously discuss this in more detail. But like I said, it's brand new, and we have got quite a lot of information about it. So, but I wanted to at least mention it so you know there's a different option available. And also they can offer kind of off-the-shelf targeting options or a custom option. Again, there are kind of price points associated with both as well, which we can talk about. So with a couple of minutes to go, I'll just kind of mention why Sky Media is we see it as a perfect environment for yourselves and your brands. So there's a number of different stats, and like I said, most, I think, brands are kind of food and drink related that are here. So I'll pick out a couple that will be relevant. So, you know, Sky subscriber is 11% more likely to be heavier consumers of chocolate, for example. 12% more likely than the average to eat ready meals. Snack once or more times a day. That's 8% more likely. So there's some really good sort of numbers and stats. So the Sky audience as a whole is fantastic for your brands. And there's more detail here about average income. Also the fact that weekly grocery shopping is higher, and you can see that breakdown between live, on demand, and online as well. And this kind of information we'll send out afterwards as well, and specifically within food. So you can see here that, you know, heavy users of pickles, chutneys, and relishes, pizzas, meat alternatives, etc. So there's a whole list of info, and we've got tons more, but I've just selected a few slides for you to look at, and again, similar for drinks as well, without going through all of that data. But really it kind of paints that picture as to why the Sky audience and Sky Media is an environment which is fantastic for your brand to kind of thrive. And I've got a couple of case studies. So the first one is not FMCG related, but it is related in terms of the targeting they used, more so geographically. So I mentioned about how we can target shops. In this scenario, this was Fire Away Pizza, for those of you that might have heard of them. The targeting, you know, they targeted 25 to 45, mid to high affluence. But the important thing is they targeted within 2 miles of each of their stores. So there's 70 restaurants, and then what that did across 8 weeks, we reached 90% of that universe, delivered 2.1 million impressions, and they invested 67,000. Unfortunately, you won't have use of this as an FMCG brand, as I mentioned, because of the sales data. But in this case, invested just under 70, returned 134, just under that. So you can see that that was a really successful campaign for them, not only brand awareness, but obviously as an ROI as well. And lastly, I think it's Talisker, for those of you whiskey drinkers who might be able to correct me. But we worked with Tesco Media on this particular one using Experian as well. And you can see the stats off the back of this. So this was very much looking to drive incremental sales, as well as kind of increase their brand perception. So you can see incremental sales, 21%, tagline attribution, 44, and brand perception, 103. So it kind of delivered on what they wanted to look at. So with that, I think my time's up. So hopefully that's been really helpful. And like I said, we'll send this out. Any questions? I'm sure we'll answer them, I think, at the end. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Perfect.
Thank you for that, Lewis. Really interesting about to see the kind of different ways that you can target consumers and things like that as well. One of those key ones, of course, being using third-party data like Tesco's Media. There you go. It's almost like I teed myself up. So yeah, I guess over to you, Fiona, to talk about kind of how we can use some of that kind of rich club card data to understand consumers from an FMCG perspective, and use that with Sky AdSmart to make kind of really effective TV targeting.
Sure. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
I just want to... Okay, perfect. So I don't need to introduce myself already, but yes, I'm from Tesco Media and Inside Platform. I think we recently got rebranded around a year ago. So yeah, formerly Dunnhumby, but we are still owned by Dunnhumby. So if you haven't heard of Tesco Media before, we leverage the Tesco Club Card dataset to provide brands and agencies with media opportunities as well as insights. This could be anywhere from creating an audience using the first party club card data all the way through to us providing insights around brand and product performance. So just looking over the club card reach with over 24 million active club card users in the UK. We actually just got confirmation to update that this morning. So this is very recent figures, but it covers 28% of the UK grocery sales as well as 36% of the online grocery sales. So it really does have huge coverage across the country. And as it stands, it is the largest data set in the UK. So bringing all of that club card data together, we're able to create audiences that we're able to activate with Sky. So our partnership with Sky really allows brands to plan their campaigns more effectively, as well as ensuring that they're targeting the most relevant audience using our club card data. So working with Sky, we create the best possible audience by bringing not only their insights, but our insights together. So our insights could be anywhere from understanding customer profile, shopping behaviors, but we can also run bespoke reports such as basket analysis. So that allows us to see what other products and what other categories are getting bought alongside your product. But once that audience has been created, it gets sent over to Sky and they manage the whole campaign and setup process. But then it comes back to us on the measurement side of things, where we provide a sales uplift report using a test and control methodology, where we'll get the exposure data over from Sky and then we'll get our transactional data from our Tesco product numbers. And then once we have those two data sets, we'll start measuring a number of different attributes around shopping profile and customer behavior. But I will go into more information later on in the presentation. Cool. So how it all works, our partnership really is around bringing two data sets together. So the 24 million, I should have amended that one, the 24 million Tesco Club Card households, and then the 12 million from AdSmart. We bring them together, we create a match, and then we're able to plan, target, activate, and measure. We have an average match rate of around 20%, which is very strong, seeing as how active both groups of households are. And then ensuring that this is happening in a safe environment. So we have a clean room partner called LiveRamp. So we utilise their secure data connectivity to then leverage the scale of our Tesco Club Card dataset, which provides us with reporting as well as advanced measurement techniques. So we'll work with LiveRamp pre-campaign activation when we're sending that audience file from our platform over to Sky. And then we also work with them post-campaign when Sky is sending that exposure data file back to us, as well as us extracting that transactional data from our product numbers. So now moving on to the fun parts of our audiences. We really do have a broad range of audiences that you can activate with to keep our catalogue nice and organised. We've put all of our segments into 6 main categories. So starting off with our brand purchase audiences. There we go. Brand purchase audiences. These are by far our most popular segments. They're all based around the shopper's relationship with your brand. They're best for acquiring new shoppers, engaging existing shoppers, and then winning back those lapsed shoppers. So if your goal is all around acquiring new shoppers, so you've got a new product that you're launching, or you're just wanting to drive awareness, then competitor buyers is definitely a segment that you'd want to look down. So these would be shoppers that are purchasing your competitor products within the subcategory that your product sits in. So it's a fantastic way to really increase your share of voice within your category. And then if you're all around keeping your brand buyers engaged, you're wanting to prevent them from switching, or you're just wanting to grow that brand loyalty, brand buyers is definitely a segment that should be on your list. So these will be shoppers that have purchased products from your brand very recently. Now, all of our buyers and our lapses segments all create around the purchase cycles. This is the time it takes a shopper to repeat purchase. In order to be a buyer, you have to be in the past 3 purchase cycles consecutively. And then to be classified as a lapser, you have to be in those past 3 purchase cycles, but then you might drop off at the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th purchase cycle. The purchase cycles really do change depending on the category that your product sits in. So we have the toothpaste category that has a 4-week purchase cycle, and that's because that normally is how long it takes a shopper to repeat purchase. So we'd be looking back at the past 12 weeks worth of data to see whether they're a brand buyer or not. But then if you take flavored gin, that has an 8-week purchase cycle, 8-week purchase cycle. So you'd be looking back at the past 24 weeks worth of data to determine whether they are a brand buyer or not. And then looking at our goal, if you're all around retention, you want to catch a shopper before they're dropping off, then I'd recommend looking at predicted brand decliners. So this segment is part of our AI-powered audience suite. So all of those audiences are created around looking at historical club card data and deciding what their future shopping behaviours are going to be. For this segment in particular, the algorithm is being created around predicting when a shopper is going to drop off and dip. So really a fantastic opportunity to re-engage your shoppers and ideal for a brand focus campaign. And then moving on to our category purchase audiences. So these are really great if you're trying to grow your brand or your market share, or if you're trying to launch a new product. And it's also a fantastic way to reach shoppers that are purchasing products that are quite similar to what you're going to advertise. We also have a segment called related subcategory bias. This allows you to tap into categories related to the subcategory that your product sits in. So let's say you're a pizza brand, you want to target the pizza category. You might also want to target the garlic bread category, as those two those two products do tend to be bought together. So this segment is really great if you want to reach shoppers who may be purchasing products for an event, occasion, or even a recipe.
Does that also work? Sorry, Fiona.
That's all right.
Another question. Does that also work with like non-direct competitors? So a chocolate brand might want to advertise across a category of crisps, because those are kind of two non-direct. Like if I'm snacking, then I'm either snacking in chocolate or I'm snacking in crisps, and that's kind of a
Yeah,
cross.
I guess you could create I don't know if I've understood that question correctly. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it allows you to branch out into other categories that the shopper is purchasing in. But I guess you could create a snacking category if that's what you're looking for. But we could, like I mentioned earlier on, you could run that basket analysis to see what are the categories your shoppers are actually shopping in, and that would probably be the most relevant way, because the related subcategory one is a bit more broader and it's like aligned to a subcategory rather than your product and your brand. But it depends. I'd say that the related subcategory is a bit more creative and allows you to broadly expand, whereas the basket analysis is a bit more like precise and it's all based off of that transactional data from your brand. I hope that answered the question. Perfect. So we also have shopper lifestyle segments. These are all based around purchase habits and behaviors that will reflect on the shopper's lifestyle. So we have healthy eating, which is on the screen now, which is split into 5 different segments depending on how healthy you'd want your shopper to be. We've got cooking, and then we've also got eco-friendly, which is split into 4 segments depending on how green you would want your shopper to be. So these are really good if you want to target a shopper based around their lifestyle, or it's really good if your product actually falls within this category. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a healthy snack brand who reached out, and we've been able to use the healthy eating segments in order to achieve their campaign goal. And then we have our interest-based audiences, so quite similar to our lifestyle audiences. These are created around the types of products shoppers have been purchasing, however they fall into more interest-based audiences. So we have our alcoholic drinks, which is split into 2 different segments. We have our pet parents, specialty food, which is split into 2 segments, and then also parents and kids. So these are really good if you want to reach a shopper based around their interest, or if you want to reach a shopper that's already purchasing the type of product that you're going to advertise that would fall into these interest-based segments. And then finally, we've got our seasonal event-based audiences. So these have been created around the types of products a shop has been purchasing over a seasonal and event period. So during the holiday season, consumers do tend to be in more of a buying mindset. So by using these segments, you'd be reaching a shopper that is primed and ready to purchase. Now, seasonal event-based audiences allow you to be quite creative with your targeting, as you'd be tapping into various different customer profiles and shopping behaviours, but they're also really good if your product aligns with the season. So, for example, using the Veganuary segments if you have any plant-based products. All of our seasonal event-based audiences do have a number of different sub-segments that sit under them depending on the type of shopper they are during that period. So as it is coming up to summer, I thought I'd go through our summer audiences. So they're split into 6 different segments depending on their agenda, their event, or the type of shopper they are across that period. So family holiday makers, fantastic opportunity for our health and beauty care brands, as those types of products would be getting purchased in preparation for their holiday. We've got festival fans and grill masters, great opportunity for our beer, wines and spirits brands, as people would be purchasing alcohol for their event as well as their gathering. And then finally, outside of segments, we do have a number of filters if you want your audience to be a little bit more granular. So we have a shopping channel, so that's reaching shoppers whether they shop online or in store. We've got our Tesco segments, which is loyalty, affluent and lifestyle. These segments can also be targeted as a standalone segment rather than just an overlay. We've got store IDs and visits, so targeting specific stores that our shoppers are shopping at, and then regional. So I know you can do that across AdSmart, but you can also do that with our data, so overlaying all the different regions across the country. Outside of filters, we do have a number of suppressions as well. So we have a beer, wines and spirits suppression, and we also have a baby and a Scotland suppression. So that's when people have opted out of certain marketing categories. So our audience category really allows people to our audience catalog really allows people reach shoppers at every stage of their journey, whether it's awareness, if you're trying to reposition your brand or launching your new product, where it's around consideration, if you're trying to increase that brand penetration, conversion, if you're trying to increase your sales, or even it's retention around winning back those lapsed shoppers. There really is a audience for everyone throughout that marketing funnel and whatever your campaign objective and goal. But if there isn't something that you haven't seen across our audience playbook, which I will share after this presentation, then do reach out, because we can create bespoke audiences depending on your campaign objective and brief. So measurement, I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested about this. So as part of our partnership with Sky, we do provide a sales uplift report for every campaign that is activated with our Tesco media audiences. So it really is more important than ever to understand the incremental impact of your campaigns. You have the ability to justify your marketing spends. So a sales uplift report, it not only closes that marketing loop, but it also provides a holistic view between campaign exposure and customer behaviour. Our methodology uses Tesco control groups, which is created at campaign setup. So this is at the Sky end of things. So Sky will allocate some shoppers to a test group who will be exposed to an ad, and then some shoppers to a control group who won't be exposed to the ad. When the campaign comes to an end, we do allow a 4-week post-campaign period. So that allows us to assess the impact of the campaign after it's finished. So once that comes to an end, we request the exposure data from Sky. Then we get the transactional data from our Tesco product numbers. Now, our Tesco product numbers are agreed at briefing stage at a product, brand and a category level. But once we have those 2 pieces of data sets, we're able to measure a number of different attributes around shopping behaviour and shopping profile. So I just thought I'd go through a couple of case studies as well. So here we've got a plant-based brand who wanted to increase the awareness of their plant-based product offering. So as I previously mentioned, they used the Veganuary segments in order to achieve their objective. We saw a huge brand sales uplift of 110% versus control. So that means the group that got exposed to the advert spent more than double versus the control group that didn't get exposed to the ads. Then we saw a £63 sales uplift per 1,000 households. That's the average spend per household across the households that brought into the brand over the campaign period. And then at the bottom, we saw the biggest drivers of the uplift, which was older adults, mid-market affluence, and category non-buyers. So this campaign, it not only generated awareness, but it also motivated shoppers and viewers to go purchase that product. And then another one, so we've got a pet food brand who wanted to increase the awareness of their wet dog food. So we decided to look into the dog food category buyer segments in order to achieve their objective. We saw a 22% brand sales uplift versus control and a whopping £386 sales uplift per 1,000 households. So the biggest driver of this uplift was less affluent, convenience lifestyle, older adults and families. So these two case studies have really demonstrated the importance of really looking beyond top line campaign metrics, as well as revealing the significant additional value that our campaigns really can create. So by focusing on, it allows us to focus on what really works for brands, which allows you to minimize that ad wastage. So the key benefits and takeaways from activating with Tesco Media, number one, like I just said, maximizing that reach and minimizing that wastage by focusing in on those audiences that you know are going to convert, that you know are going to engage with your campaign. It allows you to maximize that reach, increase your campaign impact as you have the ability to reduce the spend across the audiences that you know aren't going to interact or engage with your campaign. Number two is our purchase-based planning and detailed demographic evaluation. So by using our transactional data, you're able to plan your campaigns around real shopper behavior, which allows you to reach the right shopper at the right time. And then our detailed demographic evaluation allows you to understand your shopper profile and their purchasing behavior, which can be used into future campaigns. And then three, we've got that the Clubcard data set is representative of the whole of the UK. So over 24 million active users across the country, various different demographics. It gives us rich, scalable data that reflects real shopping purchase patterns. So yeah, please do get in touch. I've just popped a brief timeline and an overview of our process. So Sky will reach out to us on your campaign objective. We'll then pull together those audience recommendations as well as any insights that might be relevant. We do tend to respond to campaign briefs within 1 to 2 working days, but this obviously can take longer depending on the bespokeness of the brief, but it also can be quicker depending on how busy we are and readily available the audience requests are. And then once the audiences have been sent over to Sky, they're responsible for communicating that back to the client, so yourselves, and then they'll be responsible for filling out a briefing form when it has been signed off. We do like to have a briefing form sent over to us 4 weeks prior to the campaign going live, as this just gives us some breathing room with campaign creation and activation. Once that briefing form is sent over to us, we get it booked into our system and start the campaign activation. In the meantime, we request the Tesco product number list, so we're ready for measurement, and then the campaign will go live, and then the evaluation follows 4 to 6 weeks after. But yeah, I'm happy to share this. I will also share an audience playbook, which will have all the science and definitions between all of our different segments, and I can also share a white label measurement report, which gives it more in-depth detail of our measurement process and what you would receive. But thank you.
Cheers, Fiona. I think that's really useful. And it's nice to see equally that there's a way of measuring that as well from when you run those campaigns with Tesco's data. I did see there was a little question and we all knew this was going to come. So I'll ask it now and I'll kind of give both of you a chance to answer it, because I know there's probably slightly different answers between the two of you. So is there a way that brands with a smaller budget can utilize various retail media options, aware that many of these opportunities can often require large investments?
Yeah, So we do have a minimum spend of £50,000. The reason that this is a minimum spend is because we do require our pool of audiences to be big enough and strong enough when it comes to the measurement side of things. If the audience pool is too small, it can't be as accurate and reliable, and we might not be able to spot those trends and the purchase patterns and behaviors that we would like to see. So we do require it to be of that size. If it goes any lower than that, the measurement it won't be worth it. And obviously, yeah, you don't want to start throwing your money around and not actually seeing your return in your investment.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess equally, if you are able to apply all those measurement approaches as well, you're able to kind of justify that spend as well.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I know, Lewis, the answer is slightly different when we remove Tesco's, sorry, Fiona, but when we remove Tesco's from the mix.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously that does remove Tesco's from the mix, and the data from Tesco's as well. So I don't know if you've got kind of a bit to add on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was just going to sort of say from a minimum spends from an AdSmart point of view, and I appreciate it was sort of retail outlets the question, but from an AdSmart point of view, the minimum spend is kind of you'd be looking at kind of 4 or 5K. Well, technically it's 3K, but that's not going to get you much
Not allowed
with,
to
with
say.
regard with regards to the audience. So from a minimum spend, that's kind of where you'd be looking at to AdSmart to utilize the data that I sort of went through. But like we've said, the post campaign analysis and things as limited, especially when you're stocked in stores where you haven't got the access to use that data and see the uplift and all those kind of good measurements that we need to do. So from the other point of view, the Sakana option, which obviously is more in line with that, but it's kind of that 50-50 between the two, I think is how I sort of see it, is quite a good middle ground. That starts from 15K. So that's obviously less, but again, it's not going to be as in-depth measurement, etc. But there is going to be reports off the back of it. So obviously happy to talk about that or pick up separately if that's something of interest. And from the kind of Nectar perspective, they do run the minimums from 30K. However, that is limited with the post-campaign reports as well. So there is an option to kind of to do that at 30K, but again, they're kind of ideal is from 50K as well for the same reasons as Fiona mentioned. So yeah, that's kind of the pricing points as they stand at the moment.
Of course. And obviously with Sky, you've got a lot of kind of broader category information as well. You've flashed up a screen earlier about all the targeting just kind of simply within Sky based on kind of MasterCard data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously that can be utilized as well with that Sky. And then if we're kind of talking smaller budgets, it's looking at how you can test that with a smaller budget using slightly broader definitions. Obviously, what Fiona's talking about is like really being specific, like this person bought chocolate 3 weeks ago, so they're going to buy chocolate again next week, or this person's buying from crisp, so they're going to buy from chocolate as well. And it's kind of taking those slightly broader ones, but being really specific on maybe geography, and then looking at your store, your kind of impact on store sales, if brands have access to that as well, and
Yeah.
then kind of using that as a test, as a use case.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's exactly right. I think what it might be the first step to maybe the end goal is to go with Tesco Media and to spend 50K plus with them, and maybe AdSmart might be, well, let's run a test 1 or 2 campaigns that are maybe it's 5K, 10K, 20K, whatever that budget is. Almost a bit of a test and learn point of view. You can see the results, you can kind of get on air, you can have your creative, you can do all these things, and then maybe the next step is to go to Tesco's Media or obviously Nectar, depending on where you're stocked. So yeah, there's definitely options. I don't think it should just be I can't afford 50K, therefore it's not for me. I think there's definitely things we can do in between that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that's the important things is a lot of time people go, and I think that's the whole point of Sky AdSmart as well, isn't it? Really, a lot of people go, well, TV's not for me because it's stupidly expensive.
Yeah.
Or it isn't stupidly expensive, as we've seen from the kind of proof points of return from a lot of case studies, but just simply for a lot of brands, that's kind of not a reachable goal almost as well.
Yeah, I think when people think of TV in general, I think it's aspirational, but it's, you're writing your plan, kind of marketing plan for the year ahead. Most businesses don't, sort of small, medium-sized brands or businesses won't kind of include TV because they just think it's not reachable, and that's where AdSmart comes in. And I work 80% of the businesses I work with are kind of small, developing brands, businesses, and it's that kind of that first step into TV. So it is very much that kind of hand-holding process of what do we do, how do we do it, and that's kind of where we work, and kind of hold your hand through that process to make it as easy and as possible, and hopefully a good experience, and then obviously hopefully we can get some great results, and then go again, bigger and better in the future as and when that's right.
Yeah, and I guess equally, we're talking obviously in the context because we've got Fiona on the call about impact on retail store sales in stores, so whether that be Tesco's or Sainsbury's. But a lot of the case studies that you showed as well were kind of direct consumer products as well. So where you're actually selling, use the Fireway example, where I'm actually going on Fireway's website and ordering a pizza. So if there is an option like that for a product where the call to action can be on the website, then you can kind of still, then those measurement elements come in that you had crossed out on the screen, like web attribution, things like that.
That's absolutely right. So I crossed them out, on the basis that if you're stocked in a major supermarket, then it wouldn't. However, you might say, well, actually 80% comes from that, but actually 20% comes to directly on our website. We can obviously then use that and kind of see what we can do with that information and pull reports off of that for sure. So yeah, I didn't mean to kind of for it to be it's an absolute not an option if you are an FMCG brand, but I just wanted to kind of highlight if you're in a shop, it's more likely that you wouldn't be. But if we can, we will. We're always keen to try and justify spend for you to come off the back of it and say, look, this was really worth it, and this is how much we generated or how many products we sold or whatever that looks like. We're keen to kind of show you that it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that kind of store level measurement is really important when you're justifying spend as well, isn't it, Fiona? And when you can say, yeah, this is the impact on sales and this is kind of how valuable it is to you.
Yeah, I guess what you've got to remember is we're not just using the transactional data for like the planning and activation side of things. It also is proving the additional value and the incrementality that the campaign has created. And yeah, that's what you're able to access with retail media, which I think people do forget, that it's not just, oh, we can create an audience. It's also actually seeing the full impact of the campaign. So you do, like you said, like you can justify your marketing spends. And even if you do have that small budget and you just spend that 50K, if you're targeting an audience that's really relevant, really precise using our data, you'll see that return, and then hopefully it does give you that confidence in coming back and maybe spending more. Because our audiences are scalable, but they also can be used in a smaller pool.
Yeah, I think it's thinking about that 50K, and it's the point that you mentioned of being really, really hyper targeted at this is the exact shopper. So sometimes, although it looks like a big investment, it then becomes kind of lesser when you think, okay, I can reach the number you picked up was like 1 million impressions or whatever, and they're kind of really, really relevant to me as well.
No, definitely.
That's true across both as well, really, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the value is really important, and like you said, each person watching it is relevant versus somebody watching it that's not relevant, but it's cheaper. It's almost kind of it's one of those things where where do you put the importance of getting in front of the right people? It costs a bit more, but they're the right people that are gonna maybe act on it and purchase the product versus those that aren't. And I suppose that's a conversation I have a lot with general kind of linear TV versus AdSmart as well. You're targeting an audience versus a wider range of audience. So it's definitely that balancing act between obviously what you've got to spend, but also where you want to spend it. And zero wastage is kind of something we say a lot, and I know that Fiona obviously does as well, because it's so targeted. So that's definitely something to consider, I think, is spending it, but really, really targeted is might cost a little bit more.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. Well, I guess looking for any more questions in the chat. There aren't any at the moment. So I will wrap us up there and let everybody know. Well, firstly, thank you for both of you for coming and joining us and sharing all the insight that you had. But also, I will make sure that everybody gets slides and everything that both the guys have mentioned in terms of what they can follow up with as well. So yeah, thank you for your insight, guys, and thank you for sticking around as well, everybody that joined.